Hey folks, it's Nate. It's time I got back to the drawing board, and today we're going to look at Bigfoot Bill 2, The Finger of Poseidon. This one just came in over the weekend, and it got to jump the line of stuff I'm working on just because I love these books, and I really wanted to review this one right off the bat. So let's get right into it. Let's look at the form factor. This is a really well put together book. As you can see, it's got a nice cover, and it's got a pretty cool looking back cover as well. I'm not sure who did this cover. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Doug, but there you go. These are both very good covers. Personally, I like this one a little bit more than this one. This one really shows off the primary conflict, which is between Poseidon and Bill. But this one, I think, does a better job of showing you the whole cast, doing something fun, interesting, and relevant to the story. Whereas this is a little more abstract. And you know, a lot of people like these kind of abstract covers, and they're fine. They definitely have their place. An underappreciated part, I think, is the way Poseidon is, in spite of the huge difference in perspective, Poseidon is looking directly at the finger bone that Bill has on his gauntlet. That is a huge part of the entire story. It is essentially the MacGuffin that Poseidon is looking for the whole time. So there's that. But on the whole, I think I like this one. I don't know if it's composition or just the fact that it has more of the cast in it or what. But I like this cover a little bit more. You will notice, of course, that this is very different in construction from the original, which you see here. This has a very small, really, piece of art on the cover here. And then we have all this decorative stuff. This looks more like a leather bound. It is not actually leather bound. I believe this is some kind of vinyl. But it is kind of built to resemble those leather-bound editions you might find of the complete weird works of William Shakespeare or the Sherlock Holmes tales or something like that. And it's definitely pretty slick, but I prefer this kind of cover, and I'm glad to see that we stuck with that after experimenting with it in the Earthworm Jim campaign. Now, I should note that this is the original Indiegogo backer version of Shadow of the Mothman. So as I am reviewing this, something to keep in mind is there's another edition of this put out that has additional pages that were originally part of the Bigfoot Bill making of. I haven't read the making of. I didn't order that. I really just wanted the story for this one, and I'm happy with what I bought. I think that reprinting it with that is a fine decision. I didn't want to buy another copy of this for space reasons, for financial reasons, and just because I feel like it should be possible to get the entire story by reading this, because this is, you know, what we were given in the first place. So I wanted to be able to judge, can we go from this to this without losing anything? And I'm pleased to say we can. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into that. Let's start with the art. Art comes before story. So the art in here is really good. It is Doug's classic style. It's got some nice thick lines in it, and it's got lots of zany stuff. It's got these hand-drawn sound effects. I know some people aren't like a huge fan of this kind of thing, but personally, I prefer these to the computer-generated stuff or to having the letterer do them. These are part of the original art. They're colored, I believe, but otherwise they were part of things as Doug was doing the page layouts. And I think this just works better than having somebody draw all the action and then put them in later. So I like that. Bill continues to be a pretty zany character design. We see him here with the Kraken cycle. So like this is an upgraded motorcycle by his power suit, but the power suit is not invincible anymore. It's actually the Kraken of Greek mythology, you know, strapped to a Bigfoot. So that's pretty interesting. There is some really good work with the expressiveness of characters. You can really see it in this conversation between Agent Sharon and Agent Beckner. And, you know, you can kind of see the way Beckner is avoiding eye contact as he talks about how he got fired from the crypto zone. We have this close-up of Sharon, and, you know, she's really trying to encourage him, and we can see how, you know, focused she is on him. And, you know, that we can easily tell Beckner still feels ashamed and a little bit disappointed in how his career with the Cryptozone ended. And so this kind of visual acting from characters is great, and it's something that is missing in a lot of comic books. Not even independent comics, but comic books in general don't seem to have this kind of really grounded in normal body language kind of acting. There's a lot of over-the-top acting, there's a lot of grandiose posing, but this kind of subtle expression is not in most comics, and I really like seeing it here. And while Doug is not always the best at his anatomy, like many of his characters, like Bill, are super cartoony with the bugging out eyes and things like that, it is really nice to see that he also has this command of the human face and how that tells us what is going on inside the human mind. And, you know, it's a difficult skill to learn, to do, you know, with your own face and acting, having studied that a lot, and it's even harder to learn to get it onto the page using a pen or a pencil or a brush or something like that. So kudos to Doug in that aspect. There are some interesting art decisions, like he uses silhouettes like this from time to time, and you know, this is very abstract, and I'm not 100% sure, you know, why it's done on this page. Was it just done for variety? Was it a time-saving method? Because I don't particularly object to artists using time-saving methods like silhouettes or things like that. I'm just not sure why it was used there. So there are those kind of question mark art decisions, but all in all, the action is good here. Here's a great page from the chase sequence where, you know, they're being chased by what is this guy's name? I don't recall. Golag. Yes, Golag with 3 A's. So this Golag chase scene is quite fun and dynamic, and you know, it's a horse-drawn carriage, or kind of a horse-drawn carriage. These are kind of I think those are hippocamps. You know, they're kind of fishy, kind of horsey. That's fun to see. So like you know, you don't even see this kind of, you know, horse-drawn carriage kind of a thing in comics very often. It is very hard to draw horses, and they are, you know, a challenge to work into your action scenes. All of this is cool stuff to see. So major props on that front. There are a number of weird creature battle sequences in here, including the end where Poseidon swells up to kaiju size, and he has to fight another kaiju. I'm not going to tell you who that is because I don't want to spoil it, but it is fun. So yes, Doug's style is very cartoony, and it is not going to be up to everyone's tastes, but it is extremely good at what it sets out to do, which is give you a fun, action-packed story with strong insight into how people are feeling and reacting to what is going on. So major props on the art. There are some things, again, like those cutout scenes, where I don't know exactly what the storytelling purpose of them is, but based on how much purpose goes into every moment of the storytelling here, I believe that there was something there. They just didn't come through, which is a little disappointing, because Doug hits it on so many pages and on so many artistic decisions that he makes. It would be nice if they were all transparent, but you probably can't expect that, so what you gonna do? So let's talk about the story. First of all, as I said, I haven't read the bonus pages from Shadow of the Mothman, the making of. So I don't know what all was added or how that might reflect on the characters or the story or the situations. All in all, that doesn't really bother me in discussing the story because it all makes sense. So that's, you know, again, kudos. It is good that I didn't have to go out and spend another $25 on another copy of a book I already own in order to understand this story. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is this story still moves really fast. And that's kind of crazy because this is what, 160 pages. Yeah, 160 pages. Literally twice as long as Shadow of the Mothman. It still moves blisteringly fast. It still feels almost too short, but it doesn't feel like it is actually too short. It hits all the ideas it wants to, and it does so in a way that is satisfying, and I really feel like I get what the emotional impact of all the different story arcs is intended to be. So definitely, this is a case of more being better rather than just being more. And I am glad that Doug was able to fund such a long book at the same price point and really deliver on that, because if he was still doing 80-page books, this book would have been a train wreck. So what story does it tell? Well, it continues pretty much where Shadow of the Mothman left off by showing us Bill sleeping on the couch. Well, not exactly. It actually goes back in time, and this is some of the pages we were seeing just a minute ago. It goes back and it shows us some of the things that Poseidon was getting up to, like making kids with not gods, and things like that. And this is, of course, one of those awkward parts of Greek mythology where all the gods have affairs and have half-human kids, and it causes everyone headaches forever and a day, all the way up, apparently, until the present day. And this particular story is illuminating of Poseidon, who is just as capricious and cruel and unfathomable as the Greek gods tended to be. But it's not actually about Poseidon. It's about the kid here who Poseidon strikes ugly at the end of the story. And we see his face kind of turn into this weird half purple mass. And he is going to be one of the antagonists. They call him Mantis. So that kind of sets him up. And then the second thing that happens is we do get one panel of Bill asleep on the couch, and then we get the history of the cryptozone, which is interesting and basically boils down to President James Buchanan noticed that cryptids were turning up a whole lot, and he decided to found an international organization to manage them and study them. And he called it the SCP, the cryptozone, excuse me. And that is, the agency that Beckner worked for and that Bill was kept in. Okay. Of course, we get a lot more on that in the actual story itself, but the really important bit that we get is we are introduced to Diana. This is the queen of the forest. She's also the fairy queen, and if you study her with a discerning eye, you will immediately deduce that she is also Agent Sharon. This is not a huge spoiler. It's revealed within the first quarter of the book, more or less, and it's an interesting part of the story because, as I said, there is this sequence where Sharon and Beckner sit down and they have a real heart-to-heart conversation, and we realize that there's sort of a romantic relationship building between them, and really there has been since about, well, part of the way through Bigfoot Bill 2. She seemed kind of unconcerned with him, really, at the beginning of the first book, but as time goes on, they grow a little bit closer. That was one of the storylines in Shadow of the Mothman that I would have liked unpacked just a little bit more, but not a big deal. We know that the cryptozone has memory overriding devices. This is one of the way they keep cryptos hidden from the general public, and they can take out memories and put in false memories. Turns out Agent Sharon is a false persona that has been laid over Diana, Queen of the Fairy, to help her lay low until she is needed again. And it turns out that Diana was the secret to the cryptozone capturing Poseidon. Now that Poseidon is on the loose, the cryptozone is going to reactivate Diana and use her to help contain Poseidon again. All in all, very interesting setup for this story. But none of this is relevant to Bill. Bill actually comes into play when Beckner decides to go and get Sharon back. And in a lot of ways, Beckner is the main character of this book. Of course, Bill is the main character of the series. He has the super suit. He has the kind of happy-go-lucky personality that is a little more palatable in a protagonist, at least in my opinion, than Beckner, who starts off at least as a bit of a wet blanket. But the big thing about Bill is that he goes way out of his way to help his friends. So when Beckner decides he has to get Sharon back, Bill is 100% in. And at the same time, we have Poseidon making his way to the sea so he can reclaim all of his powers. And the Cryptozone is hunting for both Beckner and these escaped cryptids all the way through Los Angeles. And that's basically the story. There's a lot of other beats in there. They go to Hades. They, get chased by giant monsters. They fight giant monsters. They use magic. All kinds of fun stuff. And it's all executed pretty well. The big thing that plays out here, character development wise, is we find out what happened to Bill's family. That was the big mystery in the first story. And then we also get Beckner growing into his own as a friend of the cryptids. Of course, he's not a member of the Cryptozone anymore, but he's growing into his own as a friend of the cryptids. And he uses everything he knows about them to help manage the situation, for lack of a better term, where the Cryptozone people call in Mantis, aka the Cyclops that we were introduced here at the beginning, and he basically just beats up cryptids until they give in. Beckner is able to understand the way they think, what they want, and he's able to give them something that benefits them while also managing to keep them contained. And this really sets up a difference between Beckner and the Cryptozone and the general in charge of that, whose name, General Skinner, there it is. His name escaped me for a moment there. But it really sets up a contrast between the two of them that I think is going to be important going forward. And as Beckner grows into his own, he also makes an impression on Diana. And at the end, we get some clues that maybe the relationship between them is not quite as dead as Beckner thinks it is, but he's more focused on doing his job and helping out Bill and the other cryptids. And, that's one of the things that originally attracted Sharon to him. So we know that Beckner is well on his way to having probably the same effect on Diana, because there doesn't seem to be a huge difference between the personalities of Diana and Sharon, just a difference in age and knowledge. So all in all, really good character development, really well executed, and very interesting stuff to read if you read the first part and you were intrigued, but you wanted to know a lot of the hows and whys. You get a lot of the hows and whys here. What interests me the most about this is that Poseidon is at least temporarily defeated in this book. And now they do set up what the next leg of Bill's adventure will be, and that's probably going to be book 3. But this is supposed to be a 4-book series, and I'm really curious as to what the conflict in book 4 is going to be. Will it be Poseidon again? Will it be Mantis, who is only partially dealt with in here? Will it be some other thing that is introduced in book 4? Will it be, will they have turned Poseidon over to a bigger fish? Because, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but they have help in dealing with Poseidon at the end of this story, and I wonder if that's going to be the focus of the conflict in the final book, or maybe even just in book 3. It's really hard to tell, and that's good because it keeps me curious. I want to read volume 3 as much to know what volume 4 is going to be about as to know how they're going to resolve the plot threads left hanging at the end of this book. But at the same time, it's a little worrying. Has Doug thought about it? Is he that far ahead? I would presume he is. He is a well-established storyteller at this point. He knows the craft of writing as well as visual storytelling. So I have every expectation that is going to play out. It is a small worry, however. So, really great story. Really great presentation. Really great quality of the book. Let's talk about everything else that came with the campaign. I don't know if you can still get this, but this is what all came with it and why I think it's one of the best deals you can get in comics. So It came with a pack of Bigfoot Bill trading cards. I have 2 of them because I'm not really into this kind of kitsch anymore. I used to eat it up, but they're fun. They are shiny. They have nifty stats on the people depicted or things depicted on the back. If you like these are well worth your time trying to track down. We have, I believe this is a temporary tattoo of Bigfoot Bill. Yes, it is. Okay. That also came in the card box. I don't know if there's one in each of those or what. There's the Bigfoot Bill Army patch. This is pretty neat, and patches seem to be a big thing that Doug likes doing. I don't have anything to put these on, but I kind of like having them to just look at, so that's pretty neat. There are also these stickers. We got 3 of those. I should note that Doug has a tendency, by his own admission, to just take stuff and shove it in as he is stuffing boxes. So I don't know how much of this at this point was stuff that came with the campaign and how much was stuff that was stuffed in. The only thing I can say for sure was this preview of Earthworm Jim 2 and this, I understand these are called zines, that is included were stretch goals. So this is an interesting little thing. It's got this very punk homemade, done on a Xerox machine look and feel to it. It's kind of neat. It gives you an idea of who the main cryptids in the Cryptozone were, what they look like, and a brief glimpse into their personality. I guess it's cool. I mean, I would, if I found this sitting somewhere at the library, I'd probably just toss it in the recycling. But it was a thing that was included, and so it's probably just going to join my box of crowdfunding campaign stuff and live there forever. So if you like things like this, it's in the campaign. It was pretty neat. If it's your jam, it's not really my thing. Now this I like. This is the preview for Earthworm Jim 2 Fight the Fish. This is essentially 24 pages of the Earthworm Jim 2 graphic novel that is funding right now. And if you're into Earthworm Jim, or if you just like Doug's take on storytelling, this is going to geek you out. I mean, I geeked out. I think it's a really slick take on marketing your next campaign, and you get really a complete story arc. Like, this would be a floppy you could go into the store and buy if you really wanted to. Finally, there were these art prints that are included in here, including a signed one. This one is of the cover, and so is this one. Again, I don't know if these were stretch goals that I just, because I tend to back things and then just forget about the campaign, so I wasn't really tracking what the stretch goals were. I presume that's what they are, but it could also, like I said, sometimes Doug just stuffs stuff into boxes by his own admission, so that could be what it is as well. But it's just the cover, like it's not concept art or anything like that, and it is signed, so I kind of think that this is was probably just a stretch goal that I had forgotten about. That's a lot of stuff outside of a 160-page hardbound book for 25 bucks, plus $10 in shipping and handling, which if you've ever felt the weight of one of those books, you will completely understand. So all in all, I think, again, Doug has put out one of the best dollar-for-dollar content deliveries in crowdfunding. And if you like, that kind of swashbuckling adventure storytelling, and you don't mind art that is more animated cartoon style as opposed to really highly rendered, super realistic style common in mainline comics, then Bigfoot Bill is definitely something to look into, because it's worth every penny you pay for it. And if you want, especially the Earthworm Jim comic with a ton of other neat little add-ons, that's something to look into backing as well. Anyway, I hope that was useful for you. There is a like button and subscribe button down below. You can use them as you see fit. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I'll talk to you later.